All right, welcome to our Lunch and Learn. This is the third in our series. Today we have Jen Lotze. We're just fresh off the heels of the Cybersecurity Summit here in Maple Grove, Minnesota, where I got to see Jen in her element in teacher mode, giving
Full
people lots of
teacher
great
mode.
information and lots of fun cybersecurity tips today. So, what do we have today, Jennifer? What's the theme today?
So for today, we're going to just talk about some real life scenarios, really what that looks like for a friend or family member to be taken advantage of around cybersecurity and really focusing online. We'll talk through what some responses could be to those actions and then provide some real solutions that you can utilize in the future. So, really, the goal is to enhance everyone's critical thinking skills as they protect the people around them. I'll tell you that this is a really real threat, the things that we're talking about, right? Like, I'm sure you can think of someone that you've either seen on the news or talked to in person where they've had money taken from them or they've clicked something and there's been a withdrawal or, credit card information stolen. This is super real. And the good news about this is that there are a ton of preventative measures that we can take to ultimately protect yourself and your family. So that's how we'll.
Great, looking forward
Okay.
to it.
All right. So this one, oh, and we call them appetizers. So just so you know, in cybersecurity, we do these things called tabletops. And essentially what a tabletop is it's a group of people sit in a room. They are given it's almost like Dungeons and Dragons for cybersecurity. From what I know, I've never played, but this is what I've learned, where someone writes the story. And at certain parts of the game, the players that are in the room don't know what's happening within the story. They have to take actions based on what's happening in real time. And the tabletop leader will push them in the right direction or give them feedback. And then ultimately, they can take the notes and the report from that experience and utilize it to make change for the future. So, really hands-on, really discussion-based. So we call these appetizers because I think I'm funny and charming. Because a tabletop usually takes 3 to 4 hours, whereas an appetizer is much shorter. So
Sticking
full-on
with the
teacher
table
mode here.
theme. The table
Mm-hmm.
theme.
Yep, and food theme. I mean, who doesn't love food? It's cold outside. It's just that time. So, all right. So here's our scenario number one: the sweetheart scam. A parent or close relative has been communicating daily with an online partner they've never met. Over 6 months, they've transferred nearly $50,000 via gift cards and wire transfers to help this partner cover emergency business expenses overseas. Today, the partner has vanished, all communication is blocked, and the victim is in emotional shock, facing severe financial debt. So, I wish I could say that these things don't happen, but the reality, just within the last month, I've talked to two different people. One person whose parent did this and actually lost their house, lost all their retirement. It's catastrophic. Um, Someone else I know did this and had a real relationship, but instead of transferring money, they actually gave them their logins and passwords to their accounts. In both of those scenarios, the people have not gotten that money back. So we'll talk through that as we move forward. But as we think about this, Josh, what do you think? Like, how would you approach someone in this environment? Like, what would you do?
Very, very carefully.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, it's tough. I think first of all, we have to take a step back and manage our expectations because unfortunately, in today's world, there's a lot of people that are susceptible to this for a variety of reasons that I won't go into. I do have some very close experience to this type of thing, though, with other family members. So I think, yeah, just educating them, maybe sharing some articles so it's not coming from your voice, or we have to be very careful in general in life, but also with this, with you should statements. You should
Yeah.
do this, you should do that, you shouldn't do this, never lands
Yeah.
well, especially with friends and family members. So I
Yeah.
think coming from a place of just, hey, I'm looking out for you, maybe you should read this article, or maybe you should watch this presentation by Jen Lotze from IT Audit Labs on our webinar. And then what did you think about that?
Yeah, for sure. I think you're totally right to be very sensitive, right? Like a lesson I've learned is just don't start anything with you, right? Just say like, gosh, I really feel for you. I've never been in that position. It must be really hard. Like we just focus on this just like any other crime, right? Something bad happens. We want to nurture, we want to care for people. And it's so easy to use the wrong language and it feels judgy, right? Like no one wants to feel judged. And I think the most vulnerable place in your life you can be is in love. And so this person has real feelings connected to that. So in that one scenario where I told you it was like lost the house, lost the retirement, this person still believes that this threat actor exists and they're in love, and it breaks my heart every time I hear it. So
Yeah.
when we think about, and typically when we're in the room, we'll ask people like, so what are you going to do? Like, what's the first account or payment method you should lock down to prevent further loss, right? So even though $50,000 might seem like a lot, in these types of scenarios, it's not very much. We know that these escalate much, much higher. So if it were me, I would definitely look at calling the bank right away, right? Like cut off all ties to the bank account. Uh, Try to make sure that check your credit cards, right? Like where else would you go? Where else would you just like jump to right away?
I probably check, anything that you've potentially given them access to. If you all of a sudden have a come to Jesus moment and you realize this is a problem, I'd start probably by changing my passwords. That's the easiest
Yeah,
thing.
good call.
And if you've been listening to Jen's previous advice, you could just go to your password manager and start kind of going through some of your financial login credentials and start changing those passwords. That would be a great place to start.
I love that. I totally love that. And I think, bring up that password manager. You want to make sure that that password for those accounts isn't the same as any other account, right? We don't want someone to say like, oh, I got this great password from this great person and I'm going to apply it to other systems they have access to. That's just not great. It just spreads like wildfire. Um, the last thing that we talk about here is evidence. And I think that so often people end up forgetting that this is a crime. Like this is an actual crime. Just because it happens online and you can't see it, someone didn't break into your house. They broke into your like digital house. They stole things from you. So when we think about crimes, we always want to think about evidence. And evidence is really critical. I just want to inject here and just say like, if you're at work and you have some type of scam, whether it's phishing or you provide credentials, don't delete anything. Don't shut down your computer. Just take it off the internet, right? Turn off the Wi-Fi. Unplug that blue cord from the back. Like that's what you're going to want to do because that evidence ultimately could help your federal or local law enforcement partners figure out who did this. Because I can assure you that, like, if they're doing it to you, they're doing it to a ton of other people. They're not just putting all their eggs in one basket. They are just using these scams over and over and over again. So, what other evidence are you thinking about, Josh? I'm putting Josh on the spot. This is really unfair, I feel like, but I think it's good practice.
I think it's starting with email addresses and any communications that you might have, even if you are feeling ashamed of things that
Yeah,
you've said or done. Typically, uh, law enforcement's fairly used to handling that types of stuff. So yeah, any kind of communication you've had, emails, email addresses, phone numbers,
WhatsApp
aliases,
messages.
names,
Yep.
aliases that they might have used. Yeah, and then, even though they might be fake, but profile pictures could come in handy, and things like that. Yeah.
You're totally right on. You'll notice in a lot of these scams, they're mostly overseas, so they'll mostly stating that they're from Europe or South Africa or some more glamorous places, and just say like, "I want to come to you. I want to be there with you." You're so beautiful. You've changed my life. You'll get lots of pictures, which is surprising initially, but then you realize like, okay, these pictures are pretty great here. So as we think about this type of scam, so we're going to have our appetizer, our dessert, and then you'll see what comes after that. So our first dessert, trick and recover and support, want to stop the bleeding. Josh is totally right. We want to freeze and close those accounts used for transfers, right? So your bank account, when you notify them, they're actually going to create new accounts and they will move your money for you, which is your best bet. Don't try to fix this yourself. It just severs that connection, which is great. Um, Also, you want to make sure that you have frozen your credit. We've talked about this a lot. There are 4 credit bureaus. If you just Google search, how do I freeze my credit? There's actually 4. There are only 3 that come up usually. We have Equifax, TransUnion, and Experian. But there's actually a 4th called the Novus. So just make sure you're freezing that credit right away. All right. You want to report and document. A police report in these instances is critical, so critical. You're actually going to go 2 different places. Number 1, as soon as you know this is happening, you're going to go to IC3, which is the FBI's Internet Crime Complaint Center. And they have a really high interest in these types of romance scams, particularly as they target some of our older generations, because we recognize that those are really vulnerable. So they're looking for these patterns of behavior, right? If you submit all this information, they might say, oh my gosh, we've had the same exact one over here. We know where the money went. We can find it and we can get it back to you. So complete that IC3 right away. Because the FBI is absolutely looking at it. The second thing you're going to want to do is you're going to want to go to your local police department and you're going to want to complete a police report. Now, some local law enforcement offices might be like, we don't do that here. Just say, I need a police report. I would like this documented. Just so you have that record that you've done all of these things to really be proactive about it. And then print as much of that stuff as you can, save those screenshots, make sure you have backups of it because they're going to want that evidence too. Um, I'll tell you in a lot of these situations, particularly where money is stolen from a bank account, it's not often you get that money back. Um, Taking money from a bank account is just like if you had $100 on a table and someone took that $100 while you weren't in the room and you didn't know who it was, it would be very hard to get that back. This is the same way. So I'll tell you, this happened to one of my family members, and this person who was the threat actor was pretty smart. They actually did a transfer for $9,995 out of a checking account. Josh, do you know why that number is so critical?
Because anything over $10,000 gets reported to the feds, I believe.
It sure does. Yep, it gets reported, and you also get alerted on it if it's over $10,000. So that's a pretty important fact there. I will also set up my own alerts on my bank accounts so that then if anytime there's a transfer, I get an alert. Anytime there's a transfer over a certain amount, I'll get an alert. Now, sometimes we become a little numb to those alerts and it can become a lot, but really on those places where you are holding some pretty significant funds, you're going to want to know what's happening. And then last but not least, this is what Josh brought up right away, that emotional care. We want to make sure that we take care of our friends and family. Like, these people are victim. Um, the sad part about these schemes is that we've seen people give up all of their finances, all of their savings, and some have even lost their lives over this, right? Like, they've determined that they have no way out and there's no hope of recovering, and that's just the end of it. Like, this is a trauma. Any of these types of incidents, whether it's romance, scheme, or phishing, like, you feel very vulnerable, you feel very exposed. It's very personal. So even though it's happening online, it's just as real and in person for many people as you would think. So That's where you're really going to start to respond. And that's how you can start to support. Now, as we talk about the preventative measures, we're going to talk about our secret sauce, right? Like these are our things that we are going to hold on to and we're going to add to every type of scenario we have. So then we can just know if we're doing these things in advance of the scam, we are going to become a way, way less viable or attractive target for these threat actors. So rules. Never send money. Ever. Like, just don't do it. It's gross. Like, unless you know that person and you've confirmed with them, like you've met them 1,000 times, like you don't need to send anyone money. But one thing that didn't come up, and same thing with gift cards. iTunes gift cards do still exist, despite the fact that I was unaware of that. Um, People don't need that. What we're also seeing is, Josh, are you familiar with cryptocurrency?
I am, yes.
Okay, I've never leaned into this space, but I do know a lot of people have. I read a lot about it, but a friend of mine told me a story. So she was working, I want to say she was working at like a shop or gas station or something, and you'll see I'm a big quick trip person, and in some quick trips there are those quick crypto they look like an ATM machine, but they are really living in that Bitcoin space. And what she noticed was there was this woman on the phone and at this machine, and she was getting directions. And she ended up going up to this woman and saying, like, "Hey, do you know what's happening here? Like, who are you talking to?" And I mean, thankfully, this woman, she was a little like, "Don't talk to me. Like, I'm just doing something. It's for my partner." But ultimately, the woman let her talk to the person on the phone and was able to get additional details and stop that from continuing because they were a lot of little transfers to a lot of different places. So just know that like no one needs like you just don't need to do that. Your money is your money, and yeah. Um, You'll see with these scams, there are a lot of pictures that you'll get. If you've ever watched the Tinder Swindler on Netflix, there's actually a follow-up show called The Love Con Revenge, and you're gonna see some of that, right? Like these people create these personas. It's all out there, so it's very interesting. But we encourage people to do a reverse image search, right? Where you can have that picture, you hold down on it, you can Google search it, and you'll see that these might come up from some stock images, or it might come up as someone else on Facebook or what have you. When I was in the school district, we used TinEye a lot. As threats would come in, we would have to reverse image search them to see is this picture real or has this picture been used before? So just keep that in mind. Um, Protect yourself, right? Like we don't want to go into a room and scream all of our personal data to a group of people we don't know, right? Like no one needs to know if you're out of town for vacation or your personal or financial details or any of that. These people are really doing that reconnaissance on you to collect up all the information that they can so they can use it to their advantage later, right? You're a big cat person. Our owner of our company loves cats, just a huge cat fan. And so knowing that, like, that's something that I would absolutely use to my advantage. I would make sure that those attractive pictures have all the cats, right? They're just collecting up that reconnaissance. And then also just make sure that people know that they can come to you, right? Like be that source of truth, be that partner for them. So then if they do meet someone, they tell you. Meeting people online is sometimes a very secretive thing. And we just want to bring all that to the forefront. So thoughts about that, Josh?
Yeah, well, I think you had a slide on our previous Lunch and Learn talking about just the evolution of how we've approached these types of relationships where we used to say, don't get into people's cars. Now we're getting into Ubers and Lyfts. I think it's the same for dating, for example. You know, a lot of people are using apps for dating. So it is normal now to meet legitimate people on dating apps and things like that. But yeah, I think the biggest takeaway is if there's something feels fishy or feels off, listen to your gut and then maybe ask a friend or a loved one.
For sure. Did you know, this is off topic, but you've met me, so did you know that there are now these AI companions? Have you heard about this?
I have, yes, yeah.
Oh,
It's it
so interesting.
it
I just
looks a little bleak for, I try to spin a positive take on it and say, there's a lot of loneliness, especially in our
yep,
elderly population. So maybe it can alleviate some of that. I don't know if that's the healthiest way
yeah,
to interact, but I think probably
yeah,
some interactions better than none. So I
yeah,
think we're on the frontier of that right now, figuring out what is going to be beneficial and what's going to be
yeah.
detrimental for people.
Yeah. We should do it. We should have it. We should chat sometime about AI and how it can be manipulated. I was in a class a couple weeks ago, and we essentially like broke AI models. We uh trained them to do things that they're not supposed to do, right? Like to tell us how to commit a crime. So even though they're trained not to be able to do that, we're breaking these AI bots. And, just thinking about that component just makes me really nervous if these bots are that easy to manipulate, what they can do to a person. So I'll be really curious to see where that goes. AI is great and can be terrible too, just like anything.
Yeah.
All right. So this one is my favorite one to talk about because it is one of the things that are relatively easy to prevent. And this is kind of a trick question because if you've watched episode or Lunch and Learns 1 and 2, you probably know the answer already. So appetizer 2, the deep freeze. You receive a notification from your credit monitoring service, A plus for you if you have a credit monitoring service, that someone successfully opened a new credit card account in your name in a different state. Moments later, you receive a text alert from your bank about a large unauthorized online purchase using your existing debit card. Your credit score has dropped significantly, and you realize that you may have responded to a recent phishing email containing personal data. Well, gosh, I mean, like these are the things that we know are happening. So, pop quiz for Josh. He's been in these webinars. He's listened to SIP Cyber. I mean, what are we doing right now, Josh? What's happening here?
You mean when you notice something's off, something's bad,
Yeah.
something's
What should
wrong?
we do like right away? What should be our first thing that we jump to?
Yeah, well, I would call my credit card company and lock my credit card.
Yep. Same thing with your bank, right?
Yeah,
Like shut it down, just like we talked about in scenario one.
yeah.
Um, yeah.
And just to expand on that a little bit, I mean they're dealing with this on a daily basis, so they do have, you probably press 5 to talk to someone about
Oh
if there's
yeah,
an authorized charge on your card. So they're very adept at handling this stuff. And yeah, you just need to get on the phone. I would kind of go through my wallet and all the debit cards I have, my bank accounts, and then I'd probably go back to that password manager and start changing some
for sure.
passwords.
For sure. And truthfully, like if the bank is close to you, go to the bank, right? Like call them, let them know you're coming. Sometimes having that in-person connect can be really helpful. I'll tell you that incident I told you about a family member, they actually got all the money back. They were able to trace it and it hadn't left that primary account yet. So they were able to get it back. That's not normally the case, but if you act fast, uh, time matters, right? You don't want anything to sit. This is also a great plug for IC3 again. Our FBI partners are really curious to hear about this. Um, and then I would say, like, when you're talking to the bank, give them as many details as possible, right? All the alerts you got, if it's also infecting credit cards from other companies, make sure they get that. Um, and then when we think about this possibly being part of a phishing campaign, you're going to want to look at like, were there any emails sent from you within your account? Like, did they get into your account and start sending emails? Maybe you're going to look at your history of like where that account has been signed into. So you can see like, oh, that's definitely not me. So just trying to get as much of that information as you can, but don't sit on it. Like take action right away. You can get the evidence later. The first thing is to always stop the bleeding. It's always going to be your first thing you want to do right away. So our dessert for number 2 is you want to freeze your credit. just freeze it, right? You're going to call TransUnion, you're going to call Experian, you're going to call Equifax, you're going to call Innovis, and you're just going to get that credit frozen. That's the best thing you can do to protect yourself. If you freeze your credit, most of these types of situations become almost moot, right? Because they can't make these drastic changes to your credit life. Gets a little trickier when we talk about money in a bank, but we'll get there. Immediately contest any charges, right? Like click that fraud alert, go on to a device that you know is safe, and contest the charges. Say like, this wasn't me. Don't wait. Don't sit on it. You're going to go to another federal site on the FTC, and you're going to generate an identity theft report. This is just like IC3. They are looking for patterns of behavior again, so they can start to clean it up. And then, just like Josh said, you're going to do all that system cleanup. You're going to change all those passwords. You're going to probably get new bank accounts, new credit cards, new debit cards. You're going to get all of these things. And then run those scans, right? Like if you can do a scan, if you have a techie family member, like this is where you really want to capitalize on your younger friends who just seem to know all this stuff when they're born. So definitely lean on those people that you can trust. So again, what are we gonna do? We talked about that proactive credit freeze. This can happen to kids a lot. So we've talked about that before, freeze their credit as well. This often will go undiscovered for years. Monitor your bank statements. I know it seems really crazy, like we don't have the paper checkbooks anymore. We're like checking that the check went through, and withdrawals and spending like seems to be not the most common thing anymore. So just make sure that like I will set a calendar reminder to just check my statements once a month, right? And I try to like spread them out. So then I just know you're going to look for even the smallest of purchases you don't remember first, because our threat actors usually will start small. They want to make sure that you're not looking, right? So they might spend $2.99 on something or $5 on something that you might not notice. So if you're looking, you're going to see that stuff right away, and you can prevent a lot of big damage.
I just want to
This,
interject and say it's
yeah,
never been easier to check your bank account, right? We
oh,
don't have to
for
go to an
sure.
ATM. We don't have to balance our checkbook. If you don't have the mobile app for your bank account, I don't know what you're doing in 2025. And if you're, maybe you're not a big tech forward person, yeah, ask a family member, ask a younger person, get on there. You can simply sign in, look at your checking account every day. I look at mine every day.
Same, same. And I will say, we're not trying to hate on our oldest and youngest generations. Like, please know that is not what's happening here. We just have that data that shows that those are most vulnerable populations. So we want to be so, so mindful of our friends. This next one gets a little unpopular. I have talked to many a people when I'll go out to dinner or we're shopping for gifts or something. When they pull out that debit card to use it to pay in a store or a restaurant, I kind of get that little like shiver in my spine. Um, Credit cards are really easy to have some protections on, right? So like I don't even carry a debit card, to be honest. It just doesn't feel great. I can dispute any charge on my credit card. It is not immediately withdrawn from my accounts. Like no money is taken. If you dispute it, usually things will get canceled, and credit card companies are very comfortable with this. If you use a debit card, that money is gone. Like we said before, it's just like leaving that $100 on the table in a restaurant or in a building. It's gone. You're not going to know who took it. You won't be able to get it back. So just keep that in mind. And then just be super skeptical. Don't trust anything until you know for sure. Verify then trust. We used to be this type of humanity where we could just trust people and then verify later. But unfortunately, the world as it is, we have to verify heavily before we can trust it. And then shred documents, right? Like don't just throw away your bank statements or those offers for opening credit cards. Don't just throw them away. Shred them. Get rid of them. Great kindling for your fire pit. Like, just do what you need to do to get rid of that stuff. So just keep that in mind, because any piece of information is helpful, right? You never know what's going to show up on some of those papers that they send in the mail. All right. Let's see here. It's 12:02. Okay, we're doing great. So the last scam I really want to talk about, and this is going to lead into session 4. So in session 4, we're really going to talk about protecting yourself and your family online. We're going to hit on some topics about our youngest generations and how to keep them safe online. I was in a session yesterday with a friend who did an entire presentation on how the brain is changing due to social media and taking in information on devices, and how like the actual physical brain is changing because of that, and evolving over time. So we're going to hit on some of those topics about parental controls, how to support your child without being encroaching and seeing every click. So just know this is leaning into that. I think this, other than those love schemes, this one feels the worst. Like, this just feels gross. So an elderly relative receives a sudden frantic call. The voice sounds exactly like their grandchild or child, crying and claiming they were just in a bad car accident, were arrested, or being held for ransom. The caller immediately demands $8,000 via gift cards or a wire transfer to post bail or pay the imaginary debt, stressing that this must be kept a secret from the other family members due to the extreme urgency. This is like every TV show you see where they're like, bring a black briefcase, meet me in the park on the yellow bench, and don't call the cops, right? Like, people are going to want you to keep this secret. They don't want it to get out because they don't want someone else's voice of reason to come into the situation and try to help you stop it. What would you do here, Josh? You get that call. What are you going to do?
I would hang up immediately.
Yeah. What would you do after you hang out, right? What would you do?
Yeah, yeah, I don't know. What would I do, Jen?
I would, sorry for putting you on the spot again. You know, it's just for fun because we're good pals. Um, I would hang up at some point, but I would collect information first. So
Oh,
I would
okay.
ask, what hospital? Okay, so I need to know the address. What's the hospital?
Oh, so
What
slow
town
down, you're
is it in?
saying.
Yep, slow it
Slow
down a
down the
little bit.
conversation.
Yep, take a breath. Uh, Money does not stop people from being treated in hospitals. Like, they're not going to be like, you're bleeding and whatever, but you need to bring that 10 grand to us so we can stop it. So just keep that in mind. Bail is a very slow thing. Ransom, yes, that moves a little faster, but just take a beat. Try and get as much information as you can. Um, then you hang up, and then you're going to verify that information, right? So if it's pretend me calling Josh, he's going to hang up and he's going to call my cell phone, or he's going to call the head of my company and see, like, do you know where Jen is right now? Oh yeah, we're meeting together. Okay. So just try and get as much information as you can before you jump to any action, and write it all down. Just like with any email we get, we're going to just Google the website. We're going to go there. We'll sign into our account in a safe space. Same thing here, right? If they say they're at a hospital, you're going to Google that hospital. You're going to say, I just got a call from a frantic paramedic. Uh, can you give me any information? They're going to be like, we do not have any information on that. And you're like, whew. So getting that information is really important so you can prove that it's not real. Use your mind, right? Like, anytime we are in crisis, we want to train ourselves to just like find that calm and go back to the facts. Try to move your emotions out of it and just say, like, who, what, when, where, and why. All right. Like, answer those questions, because then it's going to start to look really logical on paper, in an illogical space, because our threat actors capitalize on us trying to do something really fast or really urgently, or panic because something's broken, or whatever there. Yeah, other thoughts on this, Josh?
Yeah, just circling back to my early statement of just hanging up. That's because this seems
Yep,
fairly obvious to me. I
yep,
think the takeaway, after you kind of come full circle with this, is that it can happen to anyone.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
and this might seem fairly obvious, this example to some people, but what gets really insidious is when it happens in a way that is uniquely designed to trip you up. So we've even
Yep.
had cybersecurity professionals. One of our friends of the IT Audit Labs, Matt Starlin, shared an example on the Audit podcast about how he got almost tricked into paying that Easy Pass scam when he was on a
Ooh.
vacation with his family. He had rented a
Yep.
car and then all of a sudden got a text that he had gone through a toll and not
Oh.
paid. And it was just the right set of circumstances to make
Yep.
him, if he would not have taken that second to pause,
Yeah.
he could have
Yep.
easily gotten sucked into something there that would have been bad. So yeah, it's just once again to your point, slow down, think through things, ask somebody, does this make sense?
You're totally right, Josh. Totally right. And those texting scams are just as vicious as an email, as a phone call. It's all just gross. So just take a beat, and then figure out what you're going to do next.
We should
So
figure out some
again,
like acronym, like, am I being asked to be urgent? Am I emotional? Is this a
yep.
money ask? Those kind of three
Oh
things
yeah.
are dead giveaways.
Yep. Well, and I like what you said there because you were kind of leaning into one of the great things you can do with your family. Create a code word, right? Like
Hmm.
what's our emergency code word? And if this person can't provide that, like it's going to make it a lot easier as well. So like it's just like that multi-factor authentication, right? So this person knows the name that they're calling, they know the person that they're impersonating, but they don't know that secret word that you share in your family. So it's built in MFA, and we love it when that happens. You're going to file those reports with FBI's IC3 and the Federal Trade Commission. So like we've just talked about in the other two situations, alert all family members because if you think they're only calling you, they're going to try and get as many people to do this as possible. If I can make $100,000 by calling 10 people, why wouldn't I do that? Especially because so many of these are built in AI or they're recordings and they're really good. So just spread the word. And then let that person know, whoever they're impersonating, hey, check your social media. Like, what are you posting on here that might give away some information? Like, are you doing a cross-country motorcycle trip, right? Like, it would be really easy to capitalize on that and say there was a motorcycle accident, whatever it might be. So take anything that you can, collect that evidence, don't delete. Do whatever you can to get as much information as possible so then you can verify it. Makes it really hard to verify that information if you don't have it to start with. So, and then, like I said, family code word, hang up and call back after you call the real number. We know that phone numbers can be spoofed or faked. So hang up and call the number that you know, call a family member of that person. Um, and then again, limit what you put online. Payment red flags, look at your money, cryptocurrency, wire transfers, all that stuff that we really talk about. You'll notice that these preventative measures are really the same for everything. Think first, act second, uh, take pause, protect yourself in advance. Like that's the nice thing about these types of scams is that the remediations are are very similar. So it's not like, oh, okay, I have to know how to do this with this type of scam and this with this type of scam. It's generally like that same idea. Document, protect, notify, file reports. Yeah. So as we think about this, I get a little cheeky with the food references. Uh, when you talk to your family about these types of incidents, get their answers on how they would respond. Like, see what their knowledge is. Like, I know that I our family ate dinner around a table every single night. I hated it at the time, but we were a very we they had their full our full attention. We didn't have cell phones either. We had pagers. But use those times to really have these discussions. If you're driving in a car or like start to collect up that information so you can try to teach to it so it doesn't happen to you. And then, yeah. So as we think about this, you want to have a really strong defense. Think about your passwords, that password manager, that multi-factor authentication. Know your bank's information, have those credit bureaus saved in your phone, know who you're calling. Don't forget a Novus because it's not something we hear about on TV. Identify trusted partner or family member who's going to be your temperature check, right? So if something feels off, call someone else and just ask, and they might give you some insight. And then secure that evidence. Get to the bottom of it, collect as much as you can, screenshots, pictures. Don't delete those accounts. They will come in handy later. And then, yeah, so as you think about leaving the kitchen, you are going to think about how you're going to plan moving forward. So we want to do that credit freeze for sure. That's a really easy first step for everyone. We want to make sure that we have our links to file these reports. Don't forget about your local law enforcement. There's a lot of mental health resources and support groups for people who've been taken advantage of, and resources on how to have these conversations because they are not easy at all. And you know, IT Audit Labs, we have a ton of resources out there through the audit, through Cyber, through these webinars. Please don't hesitate to like take advantage of those and ask for help, right? Like we might not be your people to fix your problem, but we can offer you support and help you figure out where you might go next. We want to be your partner in good things, but also when things hit the fan, like we can be that voice of reason if you have no one else. So just keep that in mind. This is not something to be ashamed of. There should be no shame in this. And if someone makes fun of you for doing that or yells at you for clicking on a link, like that's not going to create a safe space for anyone. People make mistakes. People move really fast. So we want to protect them and tell them it's okay. Like, I'm not going to always do the right thing, but I'm going to apologize for it. I'm going to fix it and I'm going to do better next time. But if you really harm someone for doing this, they're never going to tell you again. And they're just going to hide it and it's going to continue to get worse and worse. So, and then that's it. Oh my gosh, that's my wrong email. It's jlotze at itauditlabs.com. I will fix that before we post the resources. And then feel free to reach out on LinkedIn. I post a lot of things about cybersecurity because I love it. Check out IT Audit Labs on LinkedIn. We have a game night that is every month, the first Wednesday. But we'd love to see you hang out with us if you're in the regional Minnesota area. Feel free to fly in, whatever, like the food's delicious. And then check out our podcast. So my podcast is Sip Cyber. They're all under 5 minutes. You get to hear about a really cute coffee shop and then a cybersecurity tip that is just like these webinars that we've been talking about. And then the audit, if you want to get a little more nerdy, it digs into some cool technical things, some things I've never heard of or thought of before, how cybersecurity and technology is evolving. So if you want to get nerdy, definitely check out the audit. And these are all available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube. So with that, parting thoughts, Josh.
Yep, thanks for joining us today. And please like, share, and subscribe, and drop us a comment if you have a question. We'll be hosting this on our website and also on YouTube infinitum. So we are always available. Reach on out. Got any questions?